Hello, Internet. So, welcome to NerdChat. If you haven't been here before, what we do is talk about comic books and Star Wars and other nerdy stuff. Today's point of the video is to talk to people who are new to comics, or trying to get into comics and don't understand some of the terminology that some of us more veteran readers are used to, like Multiverse, or Alternate Timeline, or like Speed Force, stuff like that, so that people who want to get into this stuff, but seem a little overwhelmed by all of these concepts, can get a better handle on it. Most people have heard of what we're talking about today, which is the multiverse. The idea of parallel universes and other worlds where something's a little bit different or whatever. But if you want to get more of a view of what it is from the comic book world, that is what today's class is for. So, sit down, shut up, grab a pencil if you need one, and it is time for class. Roll the bumper. So, to get started, before we get into the concepts of the multiverse, let's talk about its introduction and how it became a thing in comics. So, back in the olden days, there were the Golden Age comics, which is where you had, Batman and Superman, Wonder Woman were there, but there were other characters like The Flash, who's not Barry Allen, who's Jay Garrick, or Green Lantern with Alan Scott. So, stuff like this is where they eventually decided to reboot these characters as, Barry Allen as The Flash, or Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern. So because of that, they didn't understand those characters just kind of vanished, and they didn't know what to do with them. But one day they wanted to bring them back, and they did it in a really clever way. In Flash number 123, they had the Flash of Two Earths, which they did. If you've seen the CW Flash, they did a segment, or they did an episode related to this. So the whole thing was that Barry was trying to show off for some kids some of his powers, and he accidentally vibrated into a different Earth. So where he thought he should have been in the Central City, he was in Keystone, and he realized that there was a Flash, but there was no Barry Allen, and he met Jay Garrick, the original Flash, who in Flash's world, or in Barry's world, was only a comic book character that he read about, which inspired him to take up the name. So that's how it all started. There were two Flashes, and that's where they realized that there were more than one Earth, but they vibrated at different frequencies. So I'm going to get right now into the concept of a little bit of, just so you can understand what the differences between these Earths are. Okay, so when it comes to the multiverse theory, what you need to just think of is alternate Earths. So what it is typically outside of comics is for every decision you make, say whether you decide to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or you decide to go to Taco Bell. The theory is that it splits off. That there's a split. So there's a universe where you did make the decision to make the PB&J, but maybe in this one you went to Taco Bell instead. Because why wouldn't you? So that's typically the theory behind multiverse as a whole in our world. And as far as the comic book universe go, it kind of works like this. So DC does it this way. There's Earth Prime. I'm not left-handed. I didn't think this through. And you might notice that there are already marks on the board because this isn't my first attempt. So Earth Prime, typically sometimes in the DC universe, is our Earth. There's no superheroes there except for Superboy Prime. So that's a powerless world. Then there's Earth 1. Earth 1 is where all of our typical DC events take place. That's where you get your mainstream stories for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all that. So then there's Earth 2, where you also get stories about those characters, but that's where, so Earth 1 we have Barry Allen as the Flash, but here we have Jay Garrick as the Flash. And Earth 3 is different as well. So here it's just minor differences between Earth 1 and 2, where there's just different characters taking up the same roles. But then in the DC universe, the Earth 3 are all evil characters. So instead of Barry Allen or Jay Garrick as the Flash, we have Johnny Quick. And they have the Crime Syndicate instead, the Justice League. So all the heroes are bad guys, and all the bad guys are heroes. So like the Joker's a hero, and Lex Luthor's a hero, but Batman and Superman are bad guys, and stuff like that. So that's just what the concept is. Basically, they use it to be able to have these Elseworld stories where they just get to see what characters would be like in different situations. Which is why I was talking about the Injustice universe. This is a universe where everything went to poop. This is a family-friendly show. Everything went really bad because Superman was tricked by the Joker into killing his wife and unborn child and setting off a nuke in Metropolis. And if you're interested about that, hit that subscribe button below because we have a video about that coming on Monday. We're going to tell you the first year and how all that happened. But that's the whole point of these universes, to tell stories from a different perspective that we wouldn't get to see these characters in typically. And DC and Marvel do it a little bit differently. So I don't need to tell anyone probably that DC and Marvel are the two main, the big hitters when it comes to comics. So DC typically has 52 Earths. So there's 52 different worlds, and sometimes they collapse over each other, and they'll have these big events where all the multiverses crash, and they'll make new ones. And we're going to be talking about that kind of stuff in another one of these videos later. So that's not important right now. But Marvel does things a little bit differently. So instead of just the typical 52 Earths, and instead of all their main events taking place on Earth 1, like a sane person would have, theirs is much more complicated, but much, much bigger. So, through the power of magic, I have erased my board, as you can see. So, Marvel does things a little bit differently. Now, they recently went through an event which is also more confusing. I'll be covering one of these other later videos when I was talking about the universes collapsing. So, they go through these reboots and then they change everything up. So, I don't actually know what Earth they're on right now. Maybe it's Earth Prime, maybe it's Earth 1. Doesn't matter. Anyway, their stuff typically takes place in Earth 616. Write it with me, left hand. You got this. So, as you can tell by my perfectly drawn circle, that is an Earth. So they take place in 616. But then there's the Ultimate Universe, which takes place on a completely different one. So 616 is where you get all of your typical stories with Captain America and Spider-Man and Iron Man, all that. So theirs all takes place on that Earth. And that's what the stories have been going on since, like early 60s up till now and all that kind of stuff. But then, like, say, in the early 2000s, they wanted to try a new idea with some more modern characters. So then they came up with the Ultimate Universe. And that's a poorly drawn you. I'm really tired. Stop texting me. Okay, so the Ultimate Universe was a different concept where they wanted to try more modern heroes. So they, unlike DC where they reboot every couple of years and then they're able to just kind of start over fresh with all their heroes, Marvel doesn't do that until like a year ago. So they decided to just make a whole new universe, and they released comics coming out with these exact same, at the same time as their main line, but in a more updated world where, Spider-Man grew up now in high school, and like he met Mary Jane and Gwen then instead of in college. Or Iron Man had a completely different suit, but with like a more updated backstory that fit like more to present day. The Hulk, he turned into Hulk trying to make the super soldier serum and would use gamma radiation and went wrong. It's the whole thing is that they try different updated concepts, but then they have like other ones where they're like, oh, I want to have a universe where like everything takes place in medieval times and nothing's ever changed after that. Or one where Hulk killed everybody and now he's the only one that lives on the Earth because there's too much radiation and stuff like that. There's one where everyone's spider people. That's an S. I'm not left-handed. It's just stuff like that. So they try different concepts so that they can make all these different kinds of stories. And it allows new writers complete freedom to do whatever they want with these characters that we want to read more stories about. So, for instance, I'm going to put this down. So there's a story out right now called Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. A huge thing that happened with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, was that he, in order to save Aunt May, got rid of his marriage with a deal with Mephisto. That erased all of his marriage, and he's never going to be married to Mary Jane again. However, a lot of fans don't like that. So what they wanted was, to be able to read stories where what if he did actually have his daughter like he was supposed to and all of that. So there's a story called Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, which takes place in a different Earth. And it allows us to get the stories that we want, or a different story that we a different story that we might want to see from, a different play out from what might have happened, in the universe that takes place mainstay. I'm stepping over my words, and I apologize for that. So it allows us to see these concepts and ideas come, even though we can't actually, get them in the main universe. So if we want to see a universe where all of the Marvel heroes are animals, so we have Thor, the Dog of Thunder, and Iron Mouse, and the Spectacular Spider-Ham, there's a universe where that exists, and that's fine. And Marvel does things even... everything in Marvel takes place in their multiverse somewhere. The Marvel Cinematic Universe with all the movies, that is on one of the multiverse's Earths. Unlike DC, for every different concept they have, has a different multiverse. So their movies have a different multiverse. The CW shows have a different multiverse than the comics. So they all have multiverses, but different ones. Whereas Marvel, it's just all of the their main universe is on 616. That gives you an idea of how much bigger there is than the 52 DC universe Earths. So that's just the whole point of it is just to get these comics that we wouldn't get to normally read. So we get Spider-Gwen, where Gwen Stacy got bitten by the spider instead of Peter, and Peter became the lizard. So these stories can exist, and no matter what, they are canon somewhere. That's the beauty of comics. Everything is canon somewhere. And everything being canon somewhere allows us to always have these stories. And gives writers the creative freedom to literally do whatever they want if they really want. And that's what makes comics so cool, is because there is unlimited creative freedom because of that. The multiverse allows us to see literally anything happen. And that's what's really cool about the Injustice universe. Because we get to see what happens if Superman turns evil and Batman has to try to stop him. And one half of heroes goes with that side, one half of heroes goes with the other. And it's all out war. But it doesn't ruin our main comics and our main version of Superman. So Superman himself, our Superman, doesn't become evil. We get to see what it would look like if it did, though. And that's really cool. And then we get to have crossovers where Batman meets another version of Batman, or the Spider-Verse event, where literally every Spider-Man from every multiverse, or from every universe, comes together to fight a multiversal threat. And that stuff is super cool. Or you get to see what it's like for Barry to meet Jay Garrick. And then in times, these get jumbled and convoluted and confusing, which is what the reboots are for. And we're going to be talking about that another time. And sometimes a multiverse is just a timeline that we got to see, where Age of Apocalypse, which is where everything in the X-Men universe got all changed around, where Xavier was not the leader of the X-Men, it was Magneto, and people really like those kinds of universes. So now there's just an Earth where that never changed. So that we got to see more comics about that kind of those stories that we wouldn't have gotten to otherwise, because it got resolved in our main universe, but not somewhere else. So we get to see more of these stories that people are interested in. And that's really confusing. And we know that as comic book readers, that can be really, really... It can put a new reader off. So, if you want to get into comics, you gotta probably have somebody that walk you through where to start. When it comes to Marvel, their current line is all new, all different. I think. I feel like I might be wrong. But it should be that. So if you want to start looking for a comic to read, pick a character that you're interested in. And you know what? It's fine if you don't start at what they're doing now. Look up stories that people highly recommend, and look up those ones, like Spider Island or something like that for Spider-Man. Or for Flash, you maybe just want to read Flashpoint, because what happened in the comics with Flashpoint is very different than the TV show. Or just look up whatever hero you're interested in and try to find some of their stories. And then you can try to hop on to where their current stuff is. And if you need help, ask a friend. Ask someone who probably reads comics. Ask someone at your local comic book shop. Ask me in the comments below. I will help you, because I read comics all the time, and I bought way too many. So it's what I do. That's why I do this, so that I can get more people interested in what the thing that I love is. So if you want to be a part of my realm, where this is part of my life and a huge part of it, if you want to be interested in that, contact me or someone else you know. I want more people to enjoy what I do, or to enjoy what I enjoy. So that's all I have. If you have any more questions, please ask me down in the comments below about the multiverse. We're also going to be going over alternative timelines, reboots, there's a lot of these concepts, and we're going to be going over all of them in this series. So, if you have anything that you are confused about in comics, let me know in the comments below, personal message me on Twitter, all that good stuff. All those links and everything that you need to contact me are in the description below. So, if you like this video, please press that thumbs up button because it helps out the channel a lot, and we need help because we only have a few subscribers and we're not growing very fast. Not that I expect to, but you know, if you want to help, be cool, share this video. That'd be great. Anyways, if you are interested more in these kind of like pseudoscience concepts, I have a video on Gorilla Grodd having some BS science, which stands for Brotherly Science Children, right here. So you can click on that. That's really funny. I liked it a lot. There's a big old subscribe button right down here somewhere, as long as I'm in the right frame. And then there'll be a video right here, which YouTube says will recommend what's best for you. So let me know what that is. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. Press subscribe and press that notification button to let you know when the next one of these videos comes out. Thank you, and that is all I have. Bye!